Minister Modi says one nation, one poll and a secular civil code are on the anvil as the Rashtriya Ekta Divas celebration in Gujarat's Kevadia. Donald Trump pulls an unusual election stunt as he climbs into a garbage truck, hits back at President Biden's comment. Good evening and welcome. You're watching Profit 360 on NDTV Profit and I'm Nupur Talwar Suri. We begin with a look at what's happened on Dalal Street today, and there was Diwali cheer there as the benchmark snapped their 4-week fall despite ending lower. Neeraj Shah joins in with a quick wrap of all the action on the bourses.
Sensex and the Nifty closed lower, but the broader markets had a bit of a recovery in the last half an hour of trade, and the banking index too recovered a little bit. The intraday of the Nifty bank would be interesting. Yes, it closed 0.64% lower. At a point of time, it was down about 1%. And then from those lows of the day, a bit of a recovery in the last half an hour odd of trade. Broader markets, small cap index in particular, had a fairly decent session. And look at that. I mean, this is of course the mid cap 100, which ended 0.5% lower, but again had the recovery. Small caps are the big one. 1.5%, and more importantly, again, that spike pulling the index way higher into the green. Now, let's pull up the large cap heat map. There's a fair degree of red, by the way. Look at that quantum of red, led by IT, no doubt, Tech Mahindra, HCL Tech, TCS, Infosys, Wipro, but also others like Asian Paints, Tata Consumer, Trent, from the consumption name participating. Adani Port was down about 1.5%, Shriram Finance 1.5%, Reliance down about 1% as well. So these were the stocks which sulked in trade. What did well? Cipla and Larsen & Toubro, big movers. Cipla 9.5%, Larsen & Toubro heavyweight, up about 6%. Then there was an ONGC, a couple of auto names like M&M and Hero MotoCorp and Eicher also doing well. So some semblance because of L&T, but otherwise a very dull day for the large cap. But the small caps in particular had a really good day. Look at the BSE 500 winners and losers list, and yes, losers are pronounced. I mean, there were IT names, Birlasoft, Persistent out there. Balrampur Chini corrected about 6%. 5-star on the Nomura downgrade was down in trade. What did well though? I mean, aside of Cipla, of course. So AkzoNobel about 15% up. Tejas Networks higher in trade. Redington continues from where it left off. So these are a few stocks which had a fairly decent uptick too in trade today. There are a few names which, for example, brokerages like MK are saying have corrected so much that they are worth buying. So the likes of IndusInd Bank, Mahindra & Mahindra Finance, Saregama, all of these names will come up in the list of conversations tomorrow when people do the Shagun Ka Sauda on the Muhurat trading day. So keep an eye out for there as well. Of course, NDTV Profit will be here to celebrate the Muhurat trading session. But for now, just keep an eye out on the global picture because that is what will impact the local markets as well.
All right, Neeraj, thank you for that. In fact, as Neeraj said, the sector which has dragged the most today is IT. Now, the IT index ended 3% lower. Rucha joins in with the details on why this fall.
Nifty IT has been hit hard today. This is largely because Capgemini, the global IT company, has cut down its guidance. Previously, it had guided for a range of -0.5 to 1.5% in terms of constant currency revenue growth for the calendar year 24. But now this has been cut down to -2 to -2.4%. So largely a negative revenue growth is what we could expect in the calendar year 24. Margin guidance has also been brought down to 13.3 to 13.4% versus a range of 13.3 to 13.6%. But what is more important is what the management is saying about how the clients are behaving with respect to discretionary spends. Well, the management is still saying that clients are cautious on discretionary demand and therefore are focusing on long-term IT transformation deals which drive efficiency. Now let's look at what the management of Indian IT companies said. Well, they said in the Q2 that BFSI is bottoming out and they are seeing traction in BFSI and the North America space, but they also did mention that discretionary spends is still under pressure. But the key thing to watch out for will be Fed decision, of course, and also the US elections which is due this year. So all of these will impact the Nifty IT, and therefore because of the guidance cut by Capgemini, Nifty IT is hit hard today.
All right, Richa, thank you very much for that. Now, veteran investor Vijay Keria, in an exclusive Diwali conversation, says that he believes that the slowdown in the economy is temporary and that there will be a turnaround soon.
People are talking about some slowdown in the economy and cyclical slowdown or whatever. That is temporary. Nobody is talking about a slowdown in the economy on the larger scale. So that is good for the market. I think whatever happening is the market. As I said, that it is return of a sensible market. That euphoria is actually dying down or cooling off. So that is always good for the market. I really feel that we are gearing up for next bull market, you can call it, or next bull run, you can call it. It might take some time, but this is what we are preparing for.
Yeah, and stable returns any day over volatile returns. But Samvat 2081, do you think we could see a rally of 20%?
81 months going forward.
Hanji. Next 1 year.
Should be, I think. But before that, I think market will consolidate further. This is what I feel.
So I think we're done with our gains for calendar year. Would that be fair to say? And then restart maybe Jan 2025?
So as I said, it will cool off further. It might cool off further. This is what I feel.
Yeah.
And because index has not fallen down so much. Individual stocks might have gone down 30%, 40%, 25% or whatever. But index still is near its high. So I think it needs to cool down further. And the sentiments needs to cool down further. What people were expecting that aaj raat ko utho, kal subah 20%, 25%. So that time has gone for the time being. Again this will come. Maybe next year, maybe after 6 months or so, it will come again. Because I have noticed one thing, that there has been a structural change in the pattern of bull market and bear market in India, which I have shared on various platforms. So now bull markets are longer and bear markets are shorter. So you call it a bear market, or you call it a reaction, or you call whatever it is. I always say that we are neither in a bull market nor a bear market. We are in a stock market. Yeah. So all those theories of 20% down, 25% down, I don't buy those theories, and because so many stocks has already fallen 30-40%. So according to the theory, they are into a bear market. According to that theory.
That's true.
This is what I feel.
Okay. विजय जी, ये सब होएगा. एक शेयर तो let's start.
He's like, let's get into the mood. बाकी सब तो चलते रहेगा.
एक शेयर तो अर्ज हो जाए. बाद में I'll ask my question, but एक शेयर तो अर्ज हो जाए. कुछ तो.
वक्त सारी जिंदगी में दो ही गुजरे हैं कठिन, एक तेरे आने के पहले, एक तेरे जाने के बाद.
पिला दे साकिया, ये भी बोल लेते. पैमाने के बाद.
अच्छा. So this is applicable to our bull market, or upswing.
And in fact, Hiren Ved, the director and CIO of Alchemy Capital, weighs in on the market growth. He says that the Q4 should be the best for the markets. He also speaks about government spending here.
29% of the fiscal deficit in the first 6 months of the year. So what it tells you is that government spending is yet to happen. Hopefully, post-November, the Maharashtra elections or whatever, you should see an acceleration. So the numbers are very interesting, right? I mean, we budgeted for 11,000 crores of spending. That's a run rate of 93,000 crores a month of central capex that the government has to do. We've been running at 58 to 60,000 crores, right? So either in the next 6 months we spend over 1 lakh crores a month to get to 11 lakh crores, or we'll end up spending less, in which case our fiscal deficit will be much lower, right? If the fiscal deficit is much lower, that should give us the impetus to cut rates faster, hopefully. But if we spend that money, hopefully growth also picks up over the next 6 months. So I'm quite hopeful. My sense is that this is a very temporary kind of slowdown. I do see growth picking up in the next 2 quarters. And I think the fourth quarter should be by far the best, which is usually also seasonally the best quarter.
Now, moving on, NDTV Profits Diwali party starts with market gurus Mihir Vora, Vikas Khemani and Pankaj Murarka. We speak to these experts on what should your investment strategy be in Samvat 2081. So has the party shifted to small and mid-cap space, or do large caps still spark returns?
So great to have you here, Vikas Khemani, Mihir Vora, Pankaj Murarka. Thank you so much for joining us on this different way of celebrating Diwali, a time of fun, time of hope, time of optimism. Vikas, let me start with you. Is this Diwali seeming special to you, or something which we might see a bit of challenge?
Every Diwali is great, and I think so is this Diwali. I think if you see, last 1 year has been a great year from market's perspective. All of us are far more richer, far more happier. Indian economy is doing very well. So I think this festive mood is, I think, by and large, very, very good. And that's how I think we all should celebrate. Of course, you know, the recent correction, consolidation is all part of the game. I don't think it's anything disrupting the story of India. So I continue to believe in India, great story. So yeah, we should not worry about it. I think we should continue to celebrate, and I see no reason. Of course, there will be times of correction, consolidation as part of it's a course, par for the course happens in every market, and we will see that. But India is one of the best wealth creation story over next 1 decade. That will continue, and that's how we should approach even this Diwali.
Yeah, and what better time to talk about wealth creation than during this festival? Mihir, what is the formula of wealth creation we need to think about in this Samvat?
Look, as Vikas mentioned, Diwali always starts with hope. And India has never disappointed, hopefuls and the positive people. So I always think that, given the decadal story that we have, it's always good to start with hope. And the point is that the way to create wealth is just to have belief in what you're doing, right? And if you believe in India, then you will stay invested. If you don't believe in India, you will not stay invested. You'll be a trader. But if you believe in the long-term India story and you stay invested for a long period of time, Diwali, Christmas, next Diwali, you'll continue to make wealth.
Traders watching will be saying, but they also believe in India. We still trade.
Absolutely.
The time horizon could be different.
The time horizons are different, but as long as they are trading on the long side, it's fine, I guess.
Pankaj, how are you feeling? Last year and this year has been phenomenal. Everyone is richer, like Vikas said. And in fact, me drew it to my notice that for 9 years, we haven't seen a correction. Calendar returns every year have been positive. So we're sitting in a good place. This time around, of course, the economy is supportive. China, luckily, in some ways, is not much of a competition as the way I'd like to look at it structurally. Are you excited, confident that the next is going to be as great as the year behind us?
I'm a slightly more medium-term thinker. I believe India is not a decadal story, but a story over the next 25 years.
Now, as part of NDTV Profits Diwali special, we spoke to Morgan Stanley's Rhythm Desai, who shared his top sectoral picks with us.
The large private banks are going to have a stellar Samvat.
Okay.
The regulatory environment favors them. The interest rate environment is slightly negative for them, assuming that the RBI cuts. But, credit costs remain low. And I think they're all sitting on pretty decent growth rates going into the next 24, 36 months, and the valuations are very attractive. So large private sector banks. Conversely, you want to avoid the mid-sized banks. Okay, so that's in your banking bucket. I think in the consumer bucket, the luxury end of the market will see a major revival. So it's gone through a bit of a soft patch. I think that will be behind us in the next 2-3 months.
Why so?
I think the fact is that a lot of consumption got front-ended coming out of COVID, and it took a few months for that to level off. But many areas of the consumer market, I think, are now looking like inventories have adjusted, and therefore primary sales will improve. Secondary sales had not got affected as much as primary sales because a lot of inventory went into the system. A lot of companies erred in assuming that the post-COVID demand was a secular demand, but it wasn't. And we have also made those mistakes, and as a consequence, inventory went up, and now I think it's moderated, and those will improve. I think there is clearly, and it's been there for months now, so it's not today's story, a rural recovery. Terms of trade in rural India are the best that we have seen in 12-13 years. Okay? Yeah. So I think rural will surprise to the upside. So that's your consumption. The flip side is be careful about sectors where there is a lot of competition. Okay? So like for example, just as an example, you have to be careful about quick commerce. Because 5 big players want to get into a market which has been dominated by 2.5 players or 3 players so far. That is not going to be an easy space. When that type of capital starts chasing the returns that the incumbents are making. So you have to be careful about some of these spaces where I think competition is intensifying, and there are some consumption sectors where competition is intensifying. So the tagline that I tell investors is, in India there is no dearth of TAM. TAM means total accessible market. But the winners will be the guys with the moats.
Now, despite intervention from the Reserve Bank of India, the rupee has hit a lifetime low against the US dollar. The rupee fell 2 paise against the US dollar to a low of 84.1 on Thursday. Now, this could possibly be due to the constant outflows from equities and upcoming US elections next week. However, the rupee's 1-month volatility is less than 1% in contrast to other Asian currencies. And the Bank of Japan has kept its benchmark interest rate unchanged as the uncertainty increased over the outlook for the economy. Now, the instability of the government after the ruling coalition suffered its worst electoral results since 2009 has also been a point of concern. Japan's central bank has said that it needs to pay attention to the course of overseas economies, along with the US economy in particular. Well, October auto sales numbers are expected to be released tomorrow. Let's go across to Puneet to get an overview of what's expected.
Well, auto sales for the month of October are expected to be strong, with some pocket of outperformance in this particular month, while some still lagged growth in this particular fiscal year as well as in October. That's a trend that's visible in the past few months for the likes of commercial makers. But let's start with the first outperformance and the 3 to 4 key companies to watch out for. Well, two-wheelers are expected to have a strong month in the month of October, with players such as Eicher Motors showing growth for the first time in this fiscal year and are expected to report a 22% growth compared to the same time last year. They are also expected to show a 19% growth on a month-on-month basis, and that might be largely building up inventory before the festive season. The other one to watch out for will be Hero MotoCorp in the two-wheeler space. They're expected to clock in roughly 6.3 lakh vehicles in this particular month, and that's up about 10% compared to the same time last year. And that's also because there's a lot of demand in markets such as UP for the company. That's around the auspicious period of Diwali when a lot of sales happen, and that's roughly about 10% of its total annual sale that's built up in just 1 month. Another one will be TVS Motors. They're expected to have a decent steady growth compared to the last year, about 12% growth, while Bajaj will have a slow month. But do note for Bajaj, they've grown roughly 20 and 25% respectively in the last 2 months. Within the four-wheeler space, we have Hyundai as our addition. This time it's listed in India in this particular month, and Hyundai, Tata Motors as well as Maruti are expected to have a slow month, while Mahindra and Mahindra are expected to report a 8 to 9% growth, continuing its growth momentum, but albeit at a slower pace compared to the first half. Commercial vehicle makers again expected to have a really weak number in this particular month. Tata Motors, the most affected, expected to report a 10% fall in sales compared to the same time last year. And while there is no ordering or new infra projects announced by the government, that will be the key impetus in the next 5 months for this fiscal year. Within tractors, Escorts is expected to report a good show, 10% growth, while Mahindra will have a flat month in the tractor space. So overall, key winners include Hero MotoCorp, Eicher Motors as well as TVS and Mahindra, while watch out for the weak performance for Tata Motors, and Escorts might surprise on the upside.
Well, moving on, in an effort to boost the national capital's nightlife and drive economic growth, the Chief Minister Ateshi Marlena has approved 24-hour operations of restaurants and food outlets in AeroCity, a prominent hospitality zone near the IGI airport. Now, the area is already home to prominent 4-star and 5-star hotels operating round the clock. The model is expected to improve visitor experiences and stimulate state revenue, similar to policies in Haryana's Gurugram. Now, the Delhi government has approved 24-hour operations for an additional 111 shops and commercial establishments. With this latest round of approvals, the number has now crossed 700. The 24/7 model is not only expected to enhance visitor experiences, but also contribute significantly to the state's revenues. Well, former US President Donald Trump made an unexpected entrance in Green Bay, hopping into the passenger seat of a garbage truck to respond to controversial remark from President Joe Biden. He wore a bright safety vest. Biden's recent comment referred to Trump's supporters as, quote, garbage, unquote. Trump took the opportunity to turn the statement around, labeling the truck as a jab at Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. And back home, Prime Minister Modi says that one nation, one poll and a secular civil code are on the anvil. He was speaking at the Rashtriya Ekta Divas celebrations in Gujarat's Kevadia.
भारत आज वन नेशन, वन सिविल कोड यानी सेकुलर सिविल कोड की तरफ भी बढ़ रहा है। और मैंने लाल किले से इस बात का जिक्र किया था। इसके भी मूल में सामाजिक एकता, सरदार साहब की बात ही हमारी प्रेरणा है। इससे अलग अलग सामाजिक वर्गों में भेदभाव की जो शिकायत रहती है, उसे दूर करने में मदद मिलेगी। देश की एकता और मजबूत होगी, देश और आगे बढ़ेगा, देश एकता से संकल्पों को सिद्ध करेगा। साथियों, आज पूरे देश को खुशी है कि आजादी के 7 दशक बाद देश में एक देश, एक संविधान का संकल्प भी पूरा हुआ है।
And in fact, the Prime Minister, of course, continues his previous traditions today as well. He celebrated with soldiers in Gujarat's Kutch area. The Prime Minister has been celebrating his Diwali each year with soldiers from the armed forces. Well, the Festival of Lights knows no border. Indian and Chinese troops exchanged sweets at the LSE border points. The traditional practice was observed a day after both countries completed troop disengagement at the 2 friction points at Demchok and Depsang Plains in eastern Ladakh. The exchange took place at all the 5 border personnel meeting points along the LAC in Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim, among other locations. Well, Diwali is an auspicious occasion, but it is also important to take necessary precautions to ensure safety of your loved ones. Here is an NDTV report on what are some of the precautions that should be taken for elderly people this Diwali.
घर के बड़े बुजुर्ग भी दिवाली का पूरा आनंद ले सकें, इसके लिए जरूरी है कुछ एहतियात। क्योंकि दिवाली पर साल दर साल बढ़ता हर तरह का प्रदूषण उनके लिए सबसे बड़ी चुनौती होता है। फोर्टिस हेल्थ केयर की वेबसाइट के मुताबिक एहतियात कई स्तरों पर जरूरी है। रोशनी के लिए जलाए गए दियों और मोमबत्तियों को इस तरह से रखा जाए कि वो लुढ़के नहीं। घर में की गई रोशनी के तार जहां तहां ना फैले हों। फैले तार बुजुर्गों के पैरों में अड़कर उनको गिरा सकते हैं। दिवाली पर जो भी दरियां कालीन बिछाए जाएं, वो चिकनी सतह पर ना हो। सीढ़ियों की रेलिंग पर रोशनी, फूल मालाएं ना लगाएं, उनको खाली रहने दें ताकि जरूरत पड़ने पर बुजुर्ग उनका सहारा ले सकें। आतिशबाजी से बुजुर्गों को दूर ही रखा जाए, क्योंकि उनका धुआं और शोर उनको नुकसान पहुंचा सकता है। उनके सामने ऐसे पटाखे चलाए जाएं जिनमें कम से कम शोर हो, कम से कम धुआं निकले। घर में कुछ दिनों के लिए एक जगह ऐसी बना लें जहां तक शोर कम पहुंचता हो। इस दौरान बुजुर्ग ईयर प्लग्स या नॉइस कैंसिलिंग हेडफोन्स इस्तेमाल करें तो बहुत ही अच्छा रहेगा। सबसे बड़ी जरूरत यह है कि बुजुर्ग घर से बाहर ज्यादा ना निकले। अगर निकले तो मास्क लगाकर। घर का पर्यावरण ठीक रहे, इसके लिए एक और रास्ता भी है, एयर प्यूरिफायर का। दिवाली के मौके पर आमतौर पर बुजुर्ग खाने पीने की थोड़ी आजादी लेना चाहते हैं, लेकिन इस पर इस तरह से नजर रखी जाए कि त्योहार का मजा भी खराब ना हो और वो मिठाई भी चख सकें। त्योहारों का सीजन लंबा चलता है, इसलिए इस दौरान रोज उनकी डायबिटीज, बीपी वगैरह की जांच करते रहें। कोशिश करें कि इस दौरान आप नियमित योग और व्यायाम करें और बुजुर्गों को भी उसमें शामिल करने की कोशिश करें। ब्यूरो रिपोर्ट, NDTV इंडिया।
Well, that's all we have time for on Profit 360, but we leave you with visuals of Diwali celebrations in different parts of the country. Have a happy, prosperous and safe Diwali. Thank you for watching.